My family's back. It's so nice to see everyone. I'm excited and I'm sad. The beginning from the end. Distinguished guests, friends and families, visitors to our island, ladies and gentlemen, people of sweet St. Martin land, good evening. I am Marie Richardson, your Mistress of Ceremonies for this evening. On behalf of Conscious Lyrics Foundation, in collaboration with the St. Martin Tourist Bureau, which is the strategic partner of our literary festival, University of St. Martin, LCF Foundation, Motorworld, which is our host tonight, SOS Radio, and Magical, I bid you welcome, bienvenue, 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 Antwerp, bienvenido, bienvenuto, welcome to the main book launch and closing ceremony of the 17th edition of the St. Martin Book Fair. Clap for that. The theme this year is New Grounds. And after what we've been through the past year, the past 2 years, it's nice to stand on new grounds. As we move along, as I said, our host, Motorworld, I would like to invite to the podium Mr. Tariq Amjad, the Managing Director of Motorworld, to give us a warm welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Motorworld. Last year, we had the pleasure of hosting the opening of the St. Martin Book Fair, and this year we also have the pleasure, I'm very proud, to host the closing ceremony of the book fair here at our showroom. On behalf of the Amjad family, our board, management, and our staff, we welcome you all as our honorable guests. To the esteemed authors traveling from near and far, I extend a special welcome and a heartfelt thank you for being here to share your talents and literary treasures with our community. I'd also like to give a special welcome to our Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports, Mr. Wycliffe Smith, who's here. Thank you. Mr. Smith, I actually know him very fondly and affectionately also call him many times his dad, because his youngest son is pretty much my best friend growing up my entire life. At Motorworld, we have always been, much more than just a car dealership. We take pride in partnering with organizations like the Conscious Lyrics Foundation and supporting positive activities for the entire community. We always explore various avenues to give back, and what better way than an opportunity to welcome you here and make a valuable contribution towards the St. Martin Book Fair's efforts toward literature, culture, and building a stronger community of readers and leaders. It's hard to imagine that it's already been 17 years since the St. Martin Book Fair has been established. We commend Shuja Riff, President of the Conscious Lyrics Foundation, as well as all of the dedicated members and volunteers. Please give them a round of applause. It truly takes a village to grow an initiative involving books and reading to this magnitude. One of my favorite quotes is from Nelson Mandela, and that is, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Of course, reading is a fundamental part of education. Education is the key to reducing poverty, eliminating gender inequality, preventing needless deaths and illnesses, and creating a sustainable planet and fostering peace. With this level of understanding, we fully support the Book Fair's vision, which is to be the dynamic platform for books and information on and about St. Martin. Like Garrison Keller said, books are a gift that can be opened again and again. This engaging event serves as a prime meeting place for networking and promoting the national literature of St. Martin, along with the literary cultures from around the Caribbean and the world. We look forward to being part of this wonderful event for the years to come, as reading is fundamental to our collective growth. May we continuously work together towards positive changes and evolving our spirits and souls to achieve the greatest level of possibilities that we could imagine in our minds and our hearts. Once again, Thank you very much for being here. I hope that you enjoy the rest of the closing ceremony and have a wonderful evening here with us here at Motorworld. Thank you.
Thank you for that warm welcome. We appreciate your generosity. Our opening literary reading comes to us from Chika Ligwe, author, literary critic from Nigeria, now based in the USA. Chika writes in English and Dutch. Her latest novel is Night Dancer. My Dutch is not that good. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Chika Ligwe.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm going to keep my shawl on because it's incredibly cold in here. I'm going to read two short extracts. One from an old novel called Black Sister Street, which is set in Antwerp, in Belgium. And on Black Sister Street tells the story of 4 Nigerian sex workers who end up in Antwerp. And it was a novel I wrote because I was very curious to know why anybody like me would travel so far to walk the red light district of Antwerp. It took me a long time to write, plenty of research, but I'm glad I did it. So I'm going to read an extract from when Sisi, who is one of the 4 Nigerian women who end up in Antwerp, goes to work for the very first time in a cafe called Te Pochi. Sisi walked in ahead of Madame to a surprisingly dark room. She had expected dazzling brightness, lots of glitter and shine, psychedelic balls of light. The cafe was dimly lit, and it took a few seconds for Sisi to get used to the dimness. At first, all she saw was a cloud of smoke rising up to meet the lights. It was as if she'd walked off the earth and stumbled into the clouds with stars in every conceivable color. Madame tapped Sisi on her shoulder, lightly, like the flutter of a butterfly, but with urgency and authority. "Smile," Madame whispered furiously to her, and Sisi took a deep breath, tucked in her stomach, and donned the smile that would become her trademark in her profession. A man in a striped shirt smiled back. He was leaning against the wall, a bottle of beer in his hand. Madame half pushed Sisi to his table, and then barreled out of the cafe, vanishing into the night. She had some other business to see to, she said, and Sisi was to behave herself. "Hello, beautiful." The man in the striped shirt grinned at her, gesturing her to an empty chair beside him. "What's your name?" "Huh? Name, your name." He spoke into her ear. "Sisi." Sisi sat down and tried to regain her smile. She stretched her lips and parted them. Like a weak flame, the smile came, faltered, and died out. She was a woman sinking. She clenched her teeth and tried again to smile. Her lips, as if made out of straw, cracked, and the smile splintered. "Sisi, beautiful name. Beautiful name for beautiful lady. You want a drink, Sisi?" the man said. "Yes, a drink would be good. Something cold, thank you." "My name is Dieter," he said. "You don't talk much, do you, Sisi?" "No," Sisi shook her head. She struggled to smile, but the splinters rejected her attempts to make them whole, to bring them back to life. They disintegrated like baby ghosts floating about the room, and finally disappearing into the gloom. "Your voice is beautiful, like you," Dieter told her, reaching across the table to touch her right cheek, his palm clammy. Sisi's natural instinct was to shake it off, but in her new life, common sense ruled over instinct, so she left it there. In a men's toilet, with lavender toilet paper littering the floor, soggy and a shiny black toilet seat. Dee had pulled his trousers down to his ankles, a flash of white boxers, a penis thundering against them, a massive pink knob. Sissy gawked. Everything she'd heard about the white man's flaccidity, his penis as small as a nose, was smashed. He heaved and moaned, one hand toward his boxers and the other at Sissy's skirt, his breath warm against her neck, his hands holding every bit of her. He licked her neck. Sissy shut her eyes. Raising his head, he stuck his tongue into her ear. In, out, eyes shut still. She tried to wriggle out of his embrace. She didn't want to do this anymore. I don't need this. Stop, she said. He held her close, pushed her against the wall. His hands covered her buttocks and buried his head in her breasts. Stop, she shouted again. Eyes open, she saw his face, his mouth open, and his jaws distended by an inner hunger. Stop. His moans swallowed her voice. His penis searched for a gap between her legs. Finding a warmth, he sighed, sprouted sperm that trickled down her legs like mucus, inaugurating Sissy into her new profession. She baptized herself into it with tears, hot and livid, down her cheeks, salty in her mouth, feeling intense pain wherever he touched, as if he were searing her with a razor blade that had just come out of a fire. Her nose filled with the stench of the room, and the stench filled her body and turned her stomach, and she did not care whether or not she threw one. But she did not. The revulsion stayed inside and expanded, and she felt a pain, a tingling starting her toes. The pain that could not be contained began to spread out around her and rise, taking over everything else, even the sound of her own heartbeats. And then, very short extract from the short story collection I have coming out in September. So please pre-order it. It's called Better Never Than Late. And I'm going to read an extract from Love of a Fat Woman. This is also set in Belgium and Nigeria. When Godwin brought his wife home to meet his family, his twin sisters hid their faces behind their hands and laughed. They said hello to their new sister-in-law and said, "We're very happy to meet you." Yet, he could see the laughter bubbling underneath. Godwin had told them on the phone that she was not beautiful, but he had said nothing about either her corpulence or the fact that she smoked like a man. "Could you not find anyone better?" his mother asked him later that night, while the new wife slept in the bedroom the twins had vacated of their mother's orders, her snoring deep and rhythmic. "She grunts like a pig," Godwin said. "Sometimes I sleep on the sofa because her snoring keeps me awake." The mother looked at him and shook her head, the way she did when she saw images of starving children with bloated stomachs, not with pity, but with something akin to bafflement that people survive such poverty staring them in the face. "If she grew her hair, she might look better," she said to Godwin. "Perhaps," Godwin agreed, rubbing his palms together, "but I did not marry her for her looks." "Yes," the mother agreed, "but even then," she sighed, "you live with her. You see her every day. How do you stand it?" Godwin shrugged. His mother worried the beads around her wrist. Then she said, "How do I show her off to the other women, eh?" "You don't have to show her off at all," Godwin snapped. She looked annoyed. So to placate her, he said, "I'll marry a nice woman for you. A woman who will give you lots of grandchildren." His mother smiled. "When? When will you marry a proper wife?" "When this is all over," he said, waving a hand over the deep red couches of his mother's sitting room as if they were the this he meant. He'd ordered the furniture earlier that day, the power it had given him to walk into a showroom and say, "That set of two, please," and then have it delivered on the back of a truck. His mother had noted at the door, taking the congratulations of neighbors who had trooped out to watch the men from the furniture shop offload the couches and carry them into the sitting room on the first floor. Then she followed them in, and told him where to place them. No thank you, the plastic wrapping could stay. The plastic sheeting squeaked with every movement, but it did not bother his mother, who sat on each of the 6 cushions, bouncing softly to test them for comfort. How soft this velvet is, she said, running a palm across the length of the armrests. Godwin asked her how long she was going to leave the cushions wrapped up for. My first set of new furniture in over 30 years, and you think I'm in a hurry to tear the plastic off? Because leave me, let me enjoy seeing them like this. Whatever Godwin did, he did for his mother. She had been uppermost in his mind that night at the club in Antwerp, when he smiled at the first white girl to smile at him. The girl wasn't his type, but he could see the potential in her. If he played his cards right, she could help him become the sort of man he dreamt of being. The sort of man who could finally repay his mother for the years of sacrifice she'd endured, and grant her an early retirement from her petty trading, which no longer brought in as much as it used to, and even then, it had not brought in nearly enough. 3 mouths to feed, and a husband disposed of by cholera, he had never known his mother to stop and rest. It thrilled him now to see her sit on the couch, her legs spread out in front of her, twirling a brand new handbag. Tina had chosen the bag herself, her present for Ms. Home Mama. Godwin had no sharp recollection of his father. That is to say that what he remembered was vague, a liquid shadow as he seen through the rain, walking out of the door every morning with a battered briefcase and a bowler hat on his head. Both the briefcase and the bowler hat had been kept for him, preserved in a paper bag on top of the wardrobe in his mother's bedroom. When he was younger, not so young as to be scared of the thought of wearing a dead man's hat, but young enough to be sentimental about his mega inheritance, he would climb on a chair to reach the top of the cupboard, bring down the paper bag, and bury his head in the hat, taking in huge gulps of his father's scent. The memory warmed him, and he felt happiness like molten lava flow through his veins. He smiled. "What are you smiling at?" his mother asked. "Just happy to be home." He had not expected to miss Nigeria when he left. First, he went to Cyprus because it was easier to get into and cheaper. And he'd been promised by the agent who got him the visa that he'd be able to work on a farm. He had indeed worked for a sturdy farmer whose name he could not pronounce. He was worked like a hearse, but he was fed, and he had a room in which to dream. He'd made his way from Cyprus to Spain and then to Belgium, where he was determined to become a legal resident. He was tired of wondering when he would be caught and deported. He went into clubs that would let him in without an ID, and smiled into faces of young girls who mainly ignored him or scowled. When he met Tina, he held on to her. She was his passport. When she whispered her fears to him at night, that she was fat, needed to lose weight to keep his love, he touched her breast and told her that he'd never fallen for skinny girls. "I like my women with fat on them, baby, and you're just perfect." Lying was easy if you kept your eye on the goal. She often asked him to tell his version of when they met. "I could not keep my eyes off you," he told her. "And what was the first thing you'd said to me?" Tina liked to ask, clearly relishing the game. "I asked if it hurt when you fell from heaven, because for sure you were an angel." It was a cheesy line, but he couldn't think of anything better, and it had sent Tina into shrieks of laughter. She looked almost pretty when she laughed, eyes shining and mouth spread wide, exposing soft pink gums. Thank you.
Writing from where we are to understand what we do not know. Thank you, Chika Unigwe, for taking us from St. Martin to Nigeria and to Antwerp. Well, dear guests, the main book of the closing ceremony is Caribbean Counterpoint, The Aesthetics of Salt in Lasana Suku. The author is Dr. Sarah Floriani, Caribbean scholar, critic, author from Italy, and based in Singapore. To introduce us to Caribbean Counterpoint, The Aesthetics of Salt in Lasana Suku, is Kai Miller, an award-winning Jamaican poet, fiction writer, essayist, and blogger. Based in the United Kingdom, Dr. Miller is widely published throughout the Caribbean and beyond. A powerfully prolific Caribbean writer, Kai Miller's books include Augustown, The Photographer Tries to Map a Way to Zion, Writing Down the Vision, Essays and Prophecies, The Last Warner Woman, and Kingdom of Empty Bellies. The highly anticipated new poetry collection from this forward prize winner, which explores violence and landscape, is entitled In Nearby Bushes, scheduled for release in the United Kingdom in August. Ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome for Dr. Kai Miller.
Hi, does that sound all right? If you were to go to Jamaica, and specifically to our wettest parish, Portland, here is a building you should go and see. And though I say building, what I really mean is story. Because every building is a story. And the chapters of some buildings are more magical than others. So on your way to the town center, Port Antonio, before actually entering the town, you should turn off, driving across what at first looks like a huge and dry plain field, driving towards the water that you know is on the other side, a view of Port Antonio Bay. Drive through the bramble towards the lighthouse until you finally come to the story. The building, Portland's Folly, built as just a summer house, was still built as the most extravagant mansion on the island, and probably the Caribbean at the time. A Roman villa with 60 rooms, an indoor pool, the grounds cultivated into a tropical paradise with peacocks and monkeys strutting about. It was a gift from Alfred Mitchell to his wife, Annie Tiffany, heiress to the Tiffany fortune. So many legends spring from this building. The monkeys, for instance, not native to Jamaica, who eventually escaped, freeing themselves as if to echo another story, swimming across the bay to an island officially known then as Wood Island, the monkeys who still live there today and have changed the name of the island to Monkey Island. But more fascinating is the story of the building's own decline. Rushing to get the building done and needing sand and water to mix the cement, Mitchell must have looked around him and thought, was there anything more abundant here than water and sand? Seawater, beach sand. It did not occur to him that he had made a building whose walls were full of salt. That here was a construction that included its destruction. That the building's future ruin was made a part of it from the very beginning. And because I'm a novelist, I wonder magical things. I wonder if they needed to salt their meals. If they could not just leave the dinner on the table and flecks of roof would come down to season their plates. I wonder if their sleep tasted of salt, and if they dreamt always of the sea. And how the building slowly collapsed, fleck by fleck, a ceiling finally caving into the floor below, and how it continues to crumble even now, like some magnificent art installation, this building dissolving towards the thing that laps at the shore, as if it is not deep that calls to deep, but salt that calls to salt. Even the name is magical, Portland's Folly. Folly has two meanings, a lack of good sense or foolishness, or a costly ornamental building with no practical purpose, especially a tower or mock Gothic ruin built in a large garden or park. This building then that is both folly and folly, but also it is a story. It is a story that we all know across these islands, the story of a man who came and thought he could build something extravagant. The story of ships that held as their cargo living beings and how those beings freed themselves from captivity. It is the story of the foolishness of man, and also it is the story of salt. That story is pervasive across the Caribbean. That story repeats itself island to island to island, and we tell it with different characters and different details. Earl Lovelace's 1996 novel is called Salt. And in its opening pages, he tells a story that some might call a myth, and others might call the John 3:16 truth, and others might call it something in between. A story that is again remembered across these islands, even though we remember it in different ways, as fragments, as small expressions or idioms in Caribbean speech. It is the story of the flying African, the man or woman. I actually prefer to regender the story and make it a woman, because why not? So a woman survives the long journey of the slave ship and is deposited now onto unfamiliar land. She actually has inside herself the ability to return, to fly, to go all the way back across the Atlantic and back to her home. But like every good story, there is a catch. Like Eve in the garden, forbidden from eating the fruit of one tree, or like Cinderella, who must leave the ball by midnight. The woman can fly back. She can defy gravity, except she be weighed down by one thing. And that debilitating weight is not the weight of bone, or the weight of flesh, or the weight of fat, but instead it is the weight of salt. The story of the flying African offers an alternate meaning to the food that was given to the enslaved people and has later become fixtures in Caribbean cuisine. Foods encased in salt, salt fish, salt pork, salt beef. That salting so important in a time before refrigeration, the salt as preservative, but the salt that also robbed a woman of her wings. Salt not only as preservative, but salt as curse. The enslaved people forced to eat the very thing that ensured the continuation of a cruelty on their bodies. If the entire story is not remembered, it is remembered in fragments. In Rastafari, they cook ital, that is to say, without salt. To cook ital is part of their levity, their levitation. In many of our islands, bad luck is called salt. You lost your business salt. You lost your job and your wife, your salt. Or as Olive Senior in her beautiful quartet of poems, a project, by the way, that I think needs to be revisited and extended given the more recent hurricanes and the more recent stories. We should continue to write them. But Senior writes just that beautiful expression, though in 1951, after the hurricane struck, they ended up sucking salt, same as everyone else. Sucking salt, such a common expression about bad luck, but also weary resilience, how we learn to accept and move on beyond the unfair hand that is sometimes dealt to us. And isn't that the story of these islands? Isn't that what we keep writing and singing again and again? These stories of salt. The salt that preserves, that curses, the salt that is in the water and in the air and sometimes in the walls, the salt that corrodes, the salt that blesses, the salt that is poured into our wounds, the salt that stings, the salt that stinks, the salt that sprinkles itself onto all of our stories, always these stories of salt. For the past 2 years, I have been trying to write a documentary, which is hard work when a filmmaker gives you that power, says, here, I'll shoot it. I have all this footage, but I need you to tell the story. The story is about a boy from Jamaica and his spectacular rise to fame, and then his spectacular fall. He was the voice of my generation. In his 20s, he had already equaled Bob Marley's record of number one reggae hits, and then surpassed it. Mark Myrie, a boy whose gravelly voice wasn't just the voice of a singer, but it was the voice of a prophet. Except, you see, sometimes listening to his music now, I think he was prophesying about himself without knowing it. He sang, for instance, but he never did I look back, never did I plan, never knowing would I tumble over like an avalanche. To read the story of Mark Myrie or Buju Banton, to read carefully all the court transcripts is to be overcome by a stupefying act of injustice, because only then do you realize the extent, the irrefutability of his innocence, an innocence that is in fact acknowledged by the judge and the jury, and by the judge and the jury, that makes his first case collapse. But eventually, though even the judge thinks it's unfair, he has to go to jail because of a stupid technicality, because sometimes the American justice system is anything but just. He's charged with dealing cocaine, which, by the way, is technically assault. And we might pause to think about the damage that salt has done to our islands. But when I think about the story of Buju Banton, I think about destiny. I think about the strange kind of fate we can't escape, like the folly in Portland, an end that is foretold from the beginning. Because you see, I have always thought that Buju Banton was destined for a great fall because of a detail often overlooked in his biography. Buju Banton, Mark Myrie, was born in Salt Lane. Over and over again in our Caribbean, there are these stories of salt. And where else is that story more poignant, more apparent than it is here in St. Martin? Original name, Swaligia, Island of Salt. This island that produced for Europe not only sugar, but also its balance, salt. You see, when we tell the story of our islands, the history of enslavement, we keep on telling the story of sugar, and that's a true story, but ours has also been a story of salt. And St. Martin knows that more than any of us. I've been writing for years, and oftentimes I write about writing and what our job as Caribbean writers ought to be. How do we think about this place? And how do we offer language back to it? I'm not really a critic, but I think about the job of criticism as well. I have to, especially when supervising PhD students. And I think the job of the critic isn't always easy, because you have to know how to listen, how to hear, and how to hear the things people don't always know that they're saying. The job of the critic is not unlike that great and wise friend. We all have at least one of them. That friend that doesn't always say much, but when they do, they reveal things about ourselves that we didn't always know. You realize you're always speaking about your mother when you're angry, they might say, and you go, oh. Or you realize this is the second time you've said something negative about that person, and you say, really? My God, that's true. Or they're the ones who listen as you argue with someone else, and they stop the back and forth and say, but you do realize you're both saying the same things. The critic at her finest provides insight, does not put new words in our mouth, but reveals to us what we've been saying all along. You see, Sarah's book at its best is the insightful work of an engaged critic, because what she's doing here is putting her ear against the Caribbean and listening to our poems and to our stories, and into our novels, looking at our art, listening to the conversation between writers. And what she's saying here is, you do realize, don't you, that you keep on telling the story of salt. That it's there over and over again. It's there all over the Caribbean, and particularly in the work of St. Martin writers, and more particularly in the work of Lassana Sekou. And Sarah isn't closing the field. Instead, she is opening a door. Salt is many things: preservative, curse, corroder, seasoning. As Sarah reminds us, the word salt is etymologically related to the word salary. And just by the way, because I'm a geek and I look up things, and therefore by the word salve, it's part of the word salutation, or salvage, or salute. Salt is a many-purpose thing, except we don't see salt as fertile ground. In fact, the salting of the earth was a ritual curse after conquering a land. He made rehabilitation impossible, regrowth impossible by salting the earth. But perhaps the magic of Sarah's book is that she suddenly makes salt into a fertile place, a critically rich place full of possibilities. Listen to your own stories, she's telling us, because there is a story of salt.
Thank you, Dr. Miller. We're getting closer to the book. And I am definitely, and I think all of us, are intrigued about Caribbean counterpoint. Salt seasons all aspects of our lives and learning. The author of this new book that actually looks at St. Martin's people, culture, history, and landscape through literature is Dr. Sarah Florian. I'm reading all wrong, I'm so excited. Is Dr. Sarah Florian. Dr. Florian obtained a PhD in modern philology at San Foscari University in Italy, and her postdoctorate in contemporary Singapore literature at Singapore Caribbean Literature at the research facilities of the University of the West Indies in Jamaica, Trinidad, and Barbados, where she interviewed noted authors and scholars such as Mutabaruka, Gordon Rollier, Kenneth Ramchan, Edward Bow, Mervyn Morris, Earl Mackenzie, Maureen Warner-Lewis, Carolyn Cooper, Jeanette Alsop, Kendall Hippolyte, John Robert Lee, Aja, David Rudder, Hubert Devenish, Funso Ayeju, Velma Pollard, Jean DeCosta, and Jennifer Rahim. According to Dr. Florian, my Venetian roots have accompanied me through various uprooting and rerouting journeys. Like the beautiful city on the water, I share an independent spirit of survival and intellectual curiosity, which steered me toward my first encounter with Caribbean literature. Dr. Florian's literature reviews, essays, poems, and short stories have appeared in Small Acts Essex Salon, Tripwire, Caribbean Quarterly, MoCo, Caribbean Arts and Letters, The Sunday Gleaner, and the Jamaica Observer. Now I'm going to try and read Italian. I'll try my best. Luce, la cita morente che mi ha fatto rinascere. Light, the dying city which gave me life again, is her debut bilingual novel. Dr. Florian is among the new generation of Caribbeanist scholars, and Caribbean Counterpoint, The Aesthetics of Salt in Lassana Sekou, is her first book on comparative and contemporary Caribbean literature. Welcome, Dr. Florian, to the podium.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Kai, for your words. I look forward to hearing your stories about Saul. Good evening, everyone. I would like to thank House of Mackenzie Publishers, Conscious Lyrics Foundation, the St. Martin Tourism Bureau, LC Family Foundation, and the University of St. Martin for your kind invitation as a guest author. Thank you, Motorworld. Thank you to Dr. Stanhope Earl Mackenzie, who wrote the preface for my book. And of course, thank you to Zana for his first 40 untiring years of poetic production and for opening our minds. I don't know where you are, Zana, because you're always hiding. But I wish you many more years of love, labor, liberation. A few words on the book. How did I start writing it? The book was essentially born as a development of one of the chapters of my PhD thesis several years ago. And it has evolved into a critical essay on Zana Sekou, a leading poet in St. Martin and in the Caribbean. In this book, I take a bird's eye view on Sekou's 40 years of poetic production, political commitment and engagement with the issues of colonialism and post-colonialism, of historical injustices, and how to improve the world to make it a better place for everyone to live in peace, through this trinity of love, labor, liberation. These are all very broad-spectrum topics, but since he decided to leave the US and come back to his island, Sekou has focused on the political independence of St. Martin from the remnants of colonial power and dominance that are still present today. Both with poetic inventiveness in his geographic experimentation, as Tabish Kair said, with the word on the page by employing different languages in his poems, creating a new system of punctuation, inventing neologisms, trying to break down barriers, such as when he writes a poem in Braille, and being constantly inspired by the great elements of Caribbean literature like Brathwaite, Walcott, Lemming, Guillen, by American poets like Amiri Baraka, or by revolutionary political figures from all over the world. Sekou tackles the issue of St. Martin's independence by looking at one of the greatest symbols of its history, the Great Salt Pond. Many years ago, I realized how poignant the symbol of salt was and is in his poetry. So I started reading his works by focusing on this powerful symbol and metaphor. And by analyzing all the recurrences of this theme, when I also compared it to its opposite, sugar, which is another colonial product, dense with poetic and historical meanings. I tend to avoid classification, even if it is inevitable to talk about post-colonialism, post-structuralism, and semiotics if they apply. But for the sake of studying and understanding, we need to categorize messages, make reference to whomever wrote something meaningful before us, and be inspired by them. The book has an introduction on the poet and his island, written as I-land, a second right from Kyoto. Of course, this means the island of St. Martin, but also the land of the self, as an exploration of himself as a poet, of his identity, and the identity of the people he recognizes himself with, mainly Africans who traveled the Middle Passage and survived by carrying along the genetic traits that became recognized, for instance, in the child of Nana Mandisa and Brotherhood of Spurs, and with the maroon indigenous spirit of the slaves who escaped the tortures of slavery. and of the plantation and plantocratic system, but also with the San Martiners of today, who in Secu's opinion are still facing a challenge of liberation from some form of slavery. This indeed is a message to every human being. After this, I analyzed the powerful symbol of the woman in his poetic production, and how many critics recognized a sort of equivalence between the woman and the island. A poetic example above all, the Helen of the West Indies in Walcott's Homerus, where the bard of Santa Lucia created a sort of epic of the Caribbean. The reviewer Christopher Wing also recognized Secu's natividad, as epic in scope. I'd like to read a passage from my book. Brathwaite spoke of a submarine unity among the islands, referring to a cultural set of musical and historical rhythms that accompanied those ancestors who were forced to cross the Middle Passage and reach the Caribbean, bound in chains on board slave ships. The musicality is found today in all Caribbean poetry, whether within circular, strong rhythms in Brathwaite's poetry, in the beauty and mystery of the Santa Lucian landscape in Walcott, or bubbling out of the mud of St. Martin's Great Salt Pond and other marshes in Secu. It is as if those rhythms, traveling with the enslaved people, crossed the ocean underwater and continue to re-emerge out of the waters of the islands through cultural expressions such as writing, music, song, art, carnival or theater and dance. These rhythms are like echoes of a long gone memory as it comes home to its people. Salt is to Secu what the image of Namsatuba is to Brathwaite. They are both what, in 1844, when French island colony of Réunion, previously called Bourbon, Louis d'Imagène Droite called Le Génie de l'Endroit. They are secret spirits of the place and connect to poets to save their historical memory from being lost and forgotten. They ask with salty words to be defended and remembered. Thus, the poets sing about their homes because they feel both a poetic responsibility as well as a social one to those places, memories, and ancestors. Memory must be continually revived and kept alive so that the historical trauma is not forgotten and a better future is evolved. The following chapter speaks about the meaning of the maroon abim, conch shell, used to communicate among fugitive slaves called maroons. These were the runaway slaves that would flee the plantations or habitation because of inhuman treatment and would hide on the hills on the morn. This maroon spirit is what Secu searches for in his people, a spirit of survival and fighting against injustices and oppression, as well as natural disasters. In this chapter, I analyze also what I call the theory of the village chief, in which Secu criticizes the attitudes and behavior of the politicians who, instead of caring about improving their own village, society, and situation, are inspired by negative examples that come from Il Norte in Spanish. El Norte is the north, but Il as sick. It gives a sense of this melody, this political illness which needs to be healed. In all this, the salt is a product which heals, hurts, nurtures or cauterizes the wounds of historical pain and of present politics. A chapter on the evolution of a West Indian aesthetics follows by comparing what writers and critics said from the 1940s until the present time. And it culminates in Rex Netterford, Edouard Glissant, Norman Girbon, Gordon Bolet, Elie Césaire, George Lemming's recognition of a common Caribbean aesthetics. Recognizing common traits and individual peculiarities will give birth to a sense of unity, of communion, of having created a new, fresh, and strong identity of the Caribbean self. Of course, I give an external point of view or opinion as a European, but I also think we should drop those historical barriers constructed by colonizers. So why did I title this book A Caribbean Counterpoint? Seco's social aesthetics is a fabric in a Caribbean fine-grained poetic panoply. As a poet warrior, the symbol of panoply as an armor, and of the greens, as grains of salt, marks my main idea that there is a Caribbean social aesthetics in all the islands, as a common trait of poetic production. This is the main message. Also, the title is musical in terms that echoes Seco's linguistic and poetic musicality, as well as shows how the Caribbean should be liberated from European colonial influence. As counterpoint was a musical term invented in the Renaissance and Baroque eras, which encompasses a plethora of different voices from the islands, which sing together to create a new literary melody. I read an extract from the last chapter. The title of this work on the Zona Seco, Caribbean Counterpoint, hints in the use of a piece of musical vocabulary at his poetic voice as both independent from and interdependent with other Caribbean voices. As the voices of the Caribbean have progressively found new renaissances of the arts, this musical term becomes even more appropriate. Counterpoint is the name for a type of music that developed during Europe's Renaissance and the later Baroque period, which consisted in the harmonization of alternating and blending different voices that produced a sense of unity when they were orchestrated together. Likewise, poets of the Caribbean exhibit their own literary contours and colors, but they sing together, expressing different aspects of their society and creating an exquisite, complex poetic ensemble in their production as a whole. Seco's voice, arising out of the swamp of St. Martin, his salt marsh, his pond, or climbing and descending the heights with the maroons, does not always speak in Creole, but he often uses the Creole languages of the Caribbean forms of speech, including his St. Martin nation tongue, to define his roots and characterize his writing. His voice is polysemic and polyglottic at the same time. His poet-warrior voice is strong, resembling the battle given by the Maroons, and it is salty too, salty as unholy slavery. Now, there is an Italian mathematician named Umberto Eco who described the intention of a work of art as threefold. The first part is called intentio autoris, which is the intention of the author, the meaning that an author gives to a work of art. The second is the intentio lectoris, the intention of the reader. So it is how we perceive individually a work of art according to our own individual experiences and points of view. And the last one is the intentio operis, the intention of the work of art, which is the meaning of the work of art itself, metaphysically detaching from both what the author wanted to say and what the reader perceives. And the intentio operis in secus over is the St. Martin Salt Reaper's invitation to humanity to rendezvous with victory. Glissant spoke of the mangrove's rhizomatic roots, and Secus' rhizomatic poetry is expanding to the rest of the world swan. The Zana has dedicated all of his life and poetic work to this commitment. His success comes from identifying his direction early back in the 1980s, when he decided that he would have come back here to his mother nation after studying in the US. And as the theme of this literary festival is new grounds, what does ground mean? Its etymology comes from Old English, in which the word grund meant foundation, but also reason, origin, as well as bottom of the sea. And so searching for new grounds means all this. It means exploring both our physical and imaginary territories, on land and in the sea, and looking for their origin and reason of existing. It is, in Secus' word, to acknowledge and explore new territories of the poetic word and to question with it the political territories that are imposed. I would like to reference a photograph of an underwater sculpture by Jason the Taylor titled Vicissitudes, which appears also in Fabian's Maroon Lives. It portrays a group of children from different ethnic backgrounds holding hands in a circle. This is placed off the coast of Grenada, and it is one of the underwater sculptures of this innovative artist who wants to bring attention to the problems of pollution in the sea and to global warming, and who intended to create, quote, a space for future generations, end of quote. Inadvertently and inevitably, this was interpreted as a remembrance of the Middle Passage. As much as these statues were conceived and molded after children of different ethnic origins, holding each other's hands in a historical continuum, this is an exploration of a new ground. As we constantly explore new grounds when we are traveling to new places, we can do so also in literary terms, so that history will be considered as a shared responsibility and a warning not to commit the same horrible mistakes of the past. I would like to conclude by focusing on some important centripetal forces that I consider in my work and in my daily life. Globalization throws external forces which potentially are reactivating separatisms, individualistic movements which are resurfacing and getting back to power in different parts of the world, politically speaking, in Europe, as well as in other countries, US, Korea, Philippines, etc. which reproduce a tribal ancestral system. Anthropologically, it is the same instinct which leads us to be part of a group and to want to remain part of it. Creating differences and separation is how racism develops. We can accept when everybody is on the same level, not discriminated for the color of the skin, religion, ethnic, sexual orientation, and all the dividing labels that people give to each other. To tell you the truth, in the past, I did experience racism. Just because I was born a white, blonde, European woman. It happened in Europe, in the Caribbean, and in Singapore. I faced countless rejections, discrimination of my work, and personal abuse, purely because of my gender. But I refused to cave in to the societal pressure and injustices that women have to take a backseat in society. We have a voice. It was then that I realized that ignorance feeds on difference. Harmony fights ignorance. Thank you. By the way, my book was Luce la città morente che mi ha fatto rinascere.
Ready? It is at this point in the program when we invite you, our guests, to generously enter into a relationship with the new book. The Book Fair Committee members are at the book table with your own copy and gift copies of Caribbean Counterpoint, The Aesthetics of Salt in Lasana Sakub. But let me add a little something. If you are doubting whether to buy an additional copy as a gift, just look at this photo. Taken in 1923, those young children carrying salt. Some of you in here must be related to some of those young people. So, in order to find out, you need to get another copy. Because I'm sure there are family members who might be old enough to help you recognize who those children are. And of course, oh, you like that one, huh? Dr. Sarah Florian will be signing your copy and your gift copy of Caribbean Counterpoints. So you will enjoy each other's company, you will hug your book fair family, you will kiss each other, you will say, I'm happy you came this year, and I will see you next year. But before we do all that, you know the man has to come up here, right? And before I say, have a safe journey, enjoy the rest of your evening, I have to say, to conclude this final part of the closing ceremony of the 17th Annual St. Martin Book Fair, join me in welcoming the Book Fair Coordinator, Mr. Suja Ref, to the stage.
Freedom Loving St. Martin's, good evening. I told you this thing was going to go fast, right? Yesterday was Thursday, and here we are Sunday, and everybody going home tomorrow. There's a sad part about the book fair. And then we got to prepare and start all over again for 2020. That's a good thing, right? The excitement started already. I decided that when we were putting the program together, that this was going to be the best book fair. Was I wrong? I really think it was the best, okay? And I know you guys are saying, yeah, you said that last year. But this one topped last year, the year before that, and the year before that. Let's ask those invited guests of ours to stand one more time, take your bow. Thank you. All the authors, all the invited authors, please stand. Please. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Our Samaritan authors as well, please stand. You guys have made it possible. You guys have made it the best book fair ever. Now, I know we're going to have difficulties stopping this one, okay? That's no maybe, that's no if and but it's 2020, and 2020 is a good year to accomplish something. Please grab me a seat. Thank you very much. Okay, I have some thank you to share with you, and I guess some notes that I'm going to have to follow them. Okay, you know, some years ago when we started the book fair, it was one of the strategic partners was the tourist office. And the idea to do it at this time of the year was the end of the high point of our tourism season and get people to come during the off-season to visit St. Martin. The good thing for us is that the hotel fares are cheaper this time of the year, and we could afford it. Okay? So, in doing so, we started marketing the book fair out there to get people to come on an annual basis. And there was a lady who made it a business every year. When we was at the 15th anniversary of the book fair, we recognized her. Unfortunately, the old lady passed, and she's no longer with us. And I think her name should be mentioned because she had never missed a book fair. And that lady was Sheila Marshall. She's no longer with us, and I know she's here with us in spirit because she's always a lover of the book fair. She flew from the United States every year to be at the St. Martin Book Fair. Give her applause. For the first time this year, we had a spelling bee and reading competition for the youngsters. When I went to the Montreal Festival, they did it, and I thought it was a great idea. So we put it together. The young lady who organized the one in Montreal said, I don't mind coming to St. Martin to help you guys set it up, and we love that. She's from Antigua. She wasn't feeling too well tonight, so she stayed at the hotel. Her name is Barbara Arundel. She's from St. Martin, Arundel, right? Barbara Arundel. There's a unique story between the Arundels from Antigua and St. Martin, but the story is too long. When we get out of here, actually the story but the young person who won that spelling bee and reading competition was the same person, and he's here with us tonight, Mr. Aramis Santos. Where is he? He's the one. Oh, here you go. Come.
Good evening, my name is Aramis Santos Mutila. I am 9 years old and I attend the Mark School in Matizasti.
He got his prize already, okay, so I have to do it. Thank you very much, Amaris. You guys think you can write a book? Good. That's what we do. We try our best to bring the book fair to the school. And everybody said this year, Martin did a great job with the kids. Just for that alone, I think the book fair was the best, okay? All right. On Tuesday last week, we were having a problem with the program. The program that we print every year. You know, hey, you guys don't understand the challenges with you sometimes. So we read by the graphic designer and the guy look at me and he says, Shujan, you didn't want this thing for Thursday, right? I said, yeah, the book fair starts on Thursday. He said, well, let me be fair with you. The type of work you're giving me here is going to take a month to complete it, so we cannot do it. But lo and behold, there's a young St. Martin who lives in the United States, came over here on vacation, and we got hold of him. His name is Angelo Romney. What the printer said needed a month to be done was finished by the next morning, 9 o'clock. Listen, he worked magic, okay? When I brought it to the printers and the stick guy said, Shuja, I noticed you got a thing done. I said, yep, we got Angelo. All right, let's continue. I wasn't meant to give jokes, but that's the truth. The Motorworld team, Tariq and all the folks at Motorworld. Isn't this a nice setting, guys? Don't you love it? I love it. Listen, the book set is over Motorworld, okay? Mark my word, you're coming back here again next year. You guys agree, right? Good, it's beautiful. Good. Thank you very much, Tariq and the Motorworld family. Thanks to Caribbean Liquor for donating the wine if you guys are going to consume in a while. Thanks for all the people at the entrance that help you be seated for the Motorworld family. Thank you very much. Okay? Thanks to the St. Martin Tourist Bureau who has been a strategic partner for the last 17 years. Thanks to the University of St. Martin and the President. Thank you very much. You're going to join me up here in a few minutes. Thanks to Elsie Fleming Foundation. Thanks to SOS Radio. Well, you guys know what SOS do. Thanks to Nagico. Last night we had a wonderful time at the Rancho del Sol. Thanks to them for their great contribution. There's a story behind that, and I'm going to give any more stories. I know you want to get your book. Thanks to all the media of St. Martin for promoting this book fair and making it what it is. But a special thank you to each and every St. Martiner and people living in St. Martin who met me and said, hold this for the book fair. Think a lot, push it in your pocket. This could help. We appreciate everything we have gotten for the book fair this year because of that, we managed to give you the best book fair ever. Let me call on some folks to join me. I'm going to call on the president of the University of St. Martin, and I'm going to call on somebody over there in the back of Panier, the bag. Can you guys bring the gifts that we need to give out? But let me know what's ready now. Okay. Mr. Lyons, please come. We put some people to work this weekend. It's got some people who work harder than others. So we told them early that when it was come to this book fair, I have a little party at 11 o'clock at night when we finish work. So this group, they don't sleep, okay? I find myself sleeping in my car today because they had me up all night last night. I had to wake up early this morning and that kind of good stuff. You see, a bunch of people came in tonight. We give some instructions on these two, right? These are special gifts for some people we put to work hard. This is usually got a name on them, so you can't mess up. Mess up already, I put the name on the wrong side. Anyhow, let me start with the names I can see, okay? All right. The first person I'm going to call is the young man who delivered that marvelous review just now. Wow, wasn't it great? You understand what song is all about there, right? So let's call Mr. Kimelo. And this is a donation, and I purposely didn't thank them yet, right, because they have their own special thanks coming for them. Okay, please come up. If you remember that you're not to go by Barbary. Because the Barbary factory said that they wanted to give you a special treat, and this special treat with your name on it, then you know it's yours. All right. All right. There's another person we put to work real hard this weekend. Hannah, this is a lady. We had her do some extra work. She did a wonderful master's class yesterday. And we had her on a panel, we had her do all kind of good stuff. And that person is our Professor Opal Adisa. Please come forward. Did you put the table and
Thank you all. Picture. Oh, picture.
picture? The third and final person that we put to work hard this weekend is, we had him on everything. Every day, he started Wednesday, he worked Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And that person is the person who delivered the keynote address for us, and the person of Mr. Peter Bailey. Wasn't he great? Thank you. At this stage is when we do the President Award. I would really like for the rest of the Book Fair team to join me on stage as we prepare for the President Award, so that they too could be part of this donation. So we all Book Fair team members, give them an applause as they come forward. I can put on the work for a minute and come forward. See, they're trying to survive to do it. Stage too small. All right. Before we get to the book fair, before we introduce you to the book fair, committee members, and the hard work they did, we're going to award. You know, every year we get together as a team and we decide who the award, the President Award, goes to. Between the university and us, we decide, well, you know, this person deserves it for the hard work they have been doing over the years. For the first award, we always give a token of appreciation, and hopefully one day this award will have some money behind it, but for now we can't do that. So for the first one, this one goes to somebody from the team, somebody that is part of us, somebody that's been doing some hard work, and definitely have dedicated her life to educating St. Martin with a new institution that she has established called SOAR. It's a Kenyan sculpture, modern art. She loves it, yes, she gotta love it. Our second award goes to someone who has been contributing to the book fair. And this week, when this person went to the schools, they had a preparation awaiting her at the school. The children had a whole wall plastered, did some research. You know the internet right now, I'm pointing, right? And if you're good and you're doing good work, they had a whole wall plastered with her photo and all the work she has produced over the years. And she was amazed. I saw the video. What are you doing there? You're Tamara, what are you doing over there? Could you? I mean, come on. I was starting you. Each one now, okay? Tamara is a senior book fair member, she don't do me. I mean, she's harder now, but I don't mean that you ain't gotta work with her. Okay. Just want you to know that you're still part of the book fair family, even if you publish your first book. So yeah, let me go back to the award. And this person has been contributing to the St. Martin Book Fair at least for the last 10 years consecutively. And her name is Miss Nicole Kai Shadman. Modern Child, a sculpture from Martin. Thank you very much, Nicole, and thanks for the work that you've been doing in St. Martin, especially with our youngsters. We want to really thank you. All right, folks, you want to meet the Book Fair committee members, right? The hard-working people who keep me with a lot of energy. Listen, we got a new saying in the Book Fair. You guys hear me say there's no book fair without Kenya? I'm going to introduce Kenya first. Somebody tell me, and he's so cool, man. Nothing bothers him. Aisha, Lamina, Dr. Rhoda Arndell, which you know already. My girl Z. Listen, I can't do it without her, okay? The new person on the theme. Yes. Woo! Yes. Angelique. Merlin. Clarentia. Latifa, staff on last evening, Tamara, and the new saying in the book fair committee is this: the new reality is we cannot do the book fair without Odell. Listen, this lady is an energy. She does everything. Everything she has handled, including making fruit punch, getting snacks. I don't know nothing about the fruit punch, I don't know nothing about the snacks, I don't know nothing about the books, I don't know nothing about the pickups at the airport, I don't know nothing about the cars. All of those things are then take care of. We definitely can't do the book fair without them. I want to thank them from the bottom of my heart, because all of it is volunteer work, just to contribute to the work. Thank each and every one of you for making the book fair the best book fair ever, and we're inviting you to get your copies of the book and come and talk to each other, give us ideas for next year, and we're going to give you another good book fair. Thank you very much. See you very much, and enjoy the rest of the